Good morning. Gosh, I hate to interrupt your conversations. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Welcome to church this morning. I'm Khleber Van Zandt. I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Venice, where we strive to be a beacon of liberal religion for Florida's Sun Coast and a refuge to all who seek a welcoming community. If you'd like to know more about this congregation and its many opportunities for learning, growth, and connection, you could peruse our calendar and announcements on Facebook or on our webpage at uucov.org. If you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like this video by hitting the thumbs up icon below. Leave us a note in the comments section and click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. That helps out. Also, you might consider surfing over to our website at uucov.org, clicking the donate button there, and giving as generously as you can. Of course, if you're here with us in the sanctuary, I believe you'll find boxes at the doors, contribution boxes at the doors on your way out. Also, if you're here, you'll see that the chancel is finished. The carpet is in. The new ramp is ready for your use at any time that it's appropriate, I suppose. I will thank, again, anybody who had anything to do with this. Thank you ever so much. There have been lots of hands, lots of checks written, lots of things happened to make this happen, so thank you. I also saw Marilyn Amick bring in the memorial book and put it over here. If you're in the sanctuary, I invite you to come over and see Marilyn Poppenmeyer's page. That is new as of this morning, so thank you for that. Phil Haxel reminded me that adult religious education will in fact happen over in Asta Linder House, across the pond from us immediately after this service, so you might want to go over there. Also, a sad note. Jack Smith's son, Jay, died this past Tuesday. This is sad news, but it's especially devastating because Jay has been helping Jack and Jeannie through some health challenges of theirs. Plans for a memorial for Jay are ongoing, but expressions of condolence to Jack and Jeannie would be very much appreciated. Your calls and cards always help. We hold Jack and Jeannie and Jay and their extended families in our hearts in this difficult time. And we do hope you'll find something in this service that speaks to you and maybe lifts you up or challenges you in ways that lead to spiritual reflection and personal growth. We're very glad you've chosen to join us today. Welcome to church again. The prelude begins our worship. Our call to worship comes from Adrian Rich. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Let us worship together. Our hymn is number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. We'll sing all 5 verses, and I think we are going to remain seated. Shall we vote? Let's just remain seated. Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, all 5 verses, and I hope the lyrics will be on the screens. Children, excuse me, there's something in this humid air. Yeah, our children have their own religious education class by Zoom each Sunday at 10 a.m. If you'd like to attend or help your child to attend or your grandchild, login information can be found on our website at uucov.org or on the Facebook page. June, still June, it is Pride Month, and so we will try again this week to bring you the story of Harvey Milk and the rainbow flag. I'll say again, and I'm going to hope this works, this is part of a series of We Share, W-E-E, Share Stories at the San Jose Public Library. It'll be read by Talon Marks.
Hi, I'm Talon Marks, and I'm here at the San Jose Public Library with We Share Stories to read a very special book about feeling good about yourself. And that book is Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the rainbow flag by Rob Sanders. Let's take a look. You have to give them hope. Hope for a better world, hope for a better tomorrow. Harvey Milk was an ordinary man, but he had an extraordinary dream, the dream that would change history. Harvey dreamed that everyone, even gay people, would have equality. He dreamed that he and his friends would be treated like everyone else. He dreamed that one day, people would be able to live and love as they pleased. With his New York accent, Harvey talked to everyone about his dream. His voice boomed. His body bounced with energy and excitement. Some people listened. A few agreed. Most did not. But Harvey's big voice and his big dream wouldn't be stopped. He discovered that the best way to change laws was to help make laws. In 1977, Harvey Milk took a big step toward that dream when he became one of the first openly gay people to be elected to political office in the United States. Harvey and his friends planned marches to protest inequality and unfair laws. And just days before one of the marches, Harvey had an idea. A symbol, he thought. We need a symbol that shows who we are and how we feel. Something to carry during the march. Something to make people feel they're part of a community. Something to give people hope. Something extraordinary. Harvey knew an artist who could help, Gilbert Baker. Harvey asked. Gilbert said, "We need a flag." Volunteers arrived to help Gilbert's design come to life. Together, they dipped fabric into large barrels filled with vivid, vibrant colors. They cut and pieced and sewed until Harvey, Gilbert, and the other activists had a flag with 8 colorful stripes. A flag that Harvey hoped would help give hope. Rights are won only by those who make their voices heard. On June 25th, 1978, when it was time for the march, a breeze stirred in San Francisco. The flag unfurled. Equality, pride, hope, love. Harvey's dream became a flag for all of us. I'm Talon Martz. Again, thank you for joining us at the San Jose Public Library with We Share Stories. And this was Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the rainbow flag. To see more stories like this, come visit our library. You'll see the URL right here. Thank you.
And now, if you've brought any celebrations with you to church this morning, I'll bring you the microphone and let you share briefly. I guess I'll keep holding the mic until we're good and done with the virus.
Okay. I'm Donna Jewett, my husband David. A week ago, he was in the hospital having surgery. Here he is today. And he celebrated his 82nd birthday on Friday, and I thank you all. We're still opening the cards, which is so wonderful. They're coming from everywhere, and we appreciate all your thoughts and your prayers, and we appreciate the celebrations. And then today, being Father's Day, he has 10 kids, by the way, 3 biological, 7 adopted children, so he's a special father. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Other celebrations.
I'm Ruth Boysworth, and I'm really glad to be back in the sanctuary this morning. But I also wanted to plug the origami group has been making origami, and we have many out on the table. We have some gay pride colors and other symbols of hope and continuity and love out on the table. Please take one as you leave.
Thank you. Are you still folding those? You're still meeting to fold or not? Okay. Talk to Ruth. And Bonnie Hurley. Other celebrations.
I have to say that I'm very happy to report that my youngest daughter has just ended a 6-month layoff, and she's back at work at a wonderful new job in DC.
Great. Another expression from a father. Celebrations. If you've brought any sorrows with you to church this morning, I'll bring you the mic and let you share.
Hi. This is difficult for me. This is the first time I've been to church since my wife passed away. I'm thankful to be here.
We're glad you're here. Other sorrows. May the gratitude and celebrations among us this day become a blessing to us all. May the concerns and sorrows of each be carried in all our hearts, a burden shared, become a load lightened. Now let's join together in a spirit of meditation and prayer that will begin today with words from a woman named Linda Underwood. Not our Linda Underwood, but Linda Underwood nonetheless. This Linda Underwood says, all this talk of saving souls. Souls weren't made to save, like Sunday clothes that give out at the seams. They're made for wear. They come with lifetime guarantees. Don't save your soul. Pour it out like rain on cracked, parched earth. Give your soul away, or pass it like a candle flame. Sing it out, laugh it up the wind. Souls were made for hearing breaking hearts, for puzzling dreams, for remembering April flowers, for forgetting hurts. These people who talk of saving souls, they have the look of bullies who blow out candles before you sing happy birthday. They want the world to be in alphabetical order. I will spend my soul playing it out like sticky string into the world so I can catch every last thing I touch. We lift up those in this community who face change, challenge, or loss today as we hold within our hearts all who suffer. And now we pray each in our own ways into the silence. The hopes of this community are offered forth in the names of all those who've gone before and in the names of all those who will come after. In the names of all the helpers of humankind, Shalom, Salam, Amen, and blessed be. Our interlude is a traditional piece called Down the Road. It's performed here by the 2020-2021 touring group of Young Traditions Vermont. Down the Road.
Well, down the road about a mile or two, Yes, every day and Sunday too, I go to see my pearly blue. Before you hear the rooster crow, you seem to headed down the road. Now his old man, he owns the farm, from the hog lot to the barn, from the barn to the rail. He makes his living by carrying the mail.
Well, every time I get the blues, I walk the soles right off my shoes. I don't know why I love her so, that gal of mine lives down the road.
Well, now I'm staring at my phone, waiting to hear that good old tone. Get yourself to the farm, we'll go skipping there arm in arm. Well, when I reach that old front door, I come running from the store, carrying the cocoa, the sugar, and the flour. Whip up a cake within the hour. Now anytime you wanna know where I'm going, it's down the road. Get my partner on the line, you'll find me there most any old time.
I understand there's an old Yiddish saying, man tracht und Gott lacht. Anybody know that I have that right? Man plans and God laughs. Suitable paraphrase for this morning might be ministers plan and happens. Events happen. Maybe you saw in the news that yesterday, maybe you knew it was the 19th of June yesterday, and you saw in the news that June 19th is now a national holiday, signed into law this week by our first black, first Asian American Vice President, Kamala Harris. I always thought that Juneteenth, as it's called, was a Texas holiday, but now it's a federal holiday, which is great. It's great. I just hope we recognize some of the problems with how it is we got to this point. So this is why I decided to change horses yesterday, to burn the sermon I had been working on and belatedly change my title today to Yes, Juneteenth. You might notice that this sermon doesn't go with anything else that we've done. Very well, we'll see. Some background. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I got into a discussion with John Spitzer about a book that's just out called Forget the Alamo. A light but pointed look at the difference between the way the 1836 Battle of the Alamo has been taught to Texas school children, and it's ingrained in the, if you will, national psyche of Texans, and the actual events of the battle, as well as actually the whole history of the settlement of Texas by first indigenous peoples, then successive waves of Spanish, French, Mexican folks, then Euros and Anglos from the United States, who you might imagine brought along plenty of former Africans that they had enslaved. And when I was a child in Texas schools, I thrilled to the stories of William Barrett Travis, Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett, oh my goodness, all the rest of what they call defenders of the Alamo, defending the Alamo from those dastardly Mexicans. Oh, I noticed a few Latin-sounding names among the lists of the brave Texican dead, but I got it like I was supposed to get it, that all Mexicans are bad and us white people were the good guys. But when you pull back the curtain on that myth of the heroic Anglo, it's not a pretty picture. Either the actual history of white slave owners transplanting enslaved black people into Texas, or currently, contemporarily, the current kickback against this more realistic version of history by staunch traditionalists, conservative politicians, white supremacists even, who just don't want to hear it. Obviously, I can't know what any of this means to you. But for me, this is not simply an academic discussion. I have on the wall in my home pictures of my great-great-great-grandparents, Isaac and Fanny, and their son, my namesake or eponym, whichever it is, Khleber Miller Van Zandt. My great-great-greats, Isaac and Fanny, were part of the influx of Anglo-Americans into East Texas just after 1836, when the state declared its independence from Mexico and established itself as a republic. A group that included both Texians, or Anglo settlers, and Tejanos, Mexican settlers, had stopped an army led by the 11-time president of Mexico, General Antonio López de Santa Anna, from imposing on the Mexican state of Texas the 1830 Mexican law that abolished slavery across all Mexican territories. I'm guessing my relatives fit well into that new slave-based plantation economy in East Texas. They owned a lot of land. Somebody had to do the work. You do the math. Isaac and Fanny's son, Khleber, born in 1836 in Tennessee, is known in my family as the Major, because he was a major in the Army of the Confederate States of America. Yep. Captured in the Confederate loss at the Battle of Fort Donelson, the Major spent time in the POW camp on Johnson Island in Lake Erie, just off Cedar Point, if you've ever been on the roller coasters there. And we know he owned people because in his autobiography, the Major tells of his young man, Jack, who went with him to that POW camp and was told by Union Army guards there that he couldn't stay with his master because he was now free. The Major says Jack wrote to him 25 years later to say that Jack had been living in Cleveland. He'd gotten married, he had 2 children, he started a number of businesses. The two got on so well that Jack ended up leaving Cleveland, coming to Fort Worth, where the Major was then staying, and remaining in the Major's employ for the rest of their lives. At least that's the story the Major tells. I wish I knew what Jack or his descendants would say. So, as I say, it is not academic to me that Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation became the law of the land on January 1st, 1863, and the enslaved people of Texas didn't learn about it until June 19th, 1865. 2.5 years after the proclamation, 2 months after Appomattox. To say that the delay was due to the late arrival of federal troops would be exceedingly gracious. Rather, it speaks to the defiant attitude that continues, in my opinion, to inhibit the progress of the Texas that exists today. On June 19, 1865, General Gordon Granger rode into Galveston with his troops and read General Order Number 3. It began this way: "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are now free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection therefore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired laborer." Hallelujah, free at last. Celebration ensues all around. I hope I may be forgiven for believing that Juneteenth was an exclusively Texas holiday. I just knew that people celebrated it where I lived, but people from other places, as far as I knew, didn't seem to know anything about it. And even though it wasn't a thing in my family of origin, it became more of a thing when I was a teen and got involved in civil rights. Further, it hadn't struck me how odd it was that people would buy small plots of land in towns and cities to use as private parks so they could celebrate Juneteenth. I guess it makes sense. Imagine trying to gather your family and friends in a public park to celebrate June 19th. Could get you arrested, or worse. But it's not that way anymore, one hopes. Clearly, Juneteenth is not an exclusively Texas holiday. If it ever was one, it's a national holiday. And we can all recite the story of those people in Galveston, Texas, hearing they were free, and we can all celebrate together. But we could also use the present moment to better understand the complicated history of these United States. So I have some questions. To what extent can Juneteenth continue to be a holiday for black people to celebrate their freedom when white people get involved and, as they inevitably do, appropriate and misappropriate the traditions? I heard the humorist D.L. Hewley say this week, "Oh great, now Juneteenth's a national holiday, and with all the economic disparity in this country, lots more white people will get a day off than black people." Now another question. How's this going to solve all our problems, this celebration of a Black Independence Day? The Reverend Dr. John Welch, who's chair of the Gamaliel organization, had an answer to this yesterday. He said, "The evolving wokeness of Americans in the wake of the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others have launched he said, an overselling of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in various institutions. My concern is that these efforts will do no more than add an array of color to a rotted house instead of doing the hard work of examining the infection that is causing the rot in the first place. Wow. And another question. Just how was it that we saw all 100 senators vote for making Juneteenth a national holiday, while the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the For the People Act, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, and many other critical reforms still languish in the Congress with little hope of passing really either House or Senate? What is it just that Juneteenth is an easy bone to throw to say, hey, look, we're not racist? I'm glad Juneteenth is a federal holiday. I am. It should be nothing less. The symbolism alone, our first black vice president saying, let's all celebrate this milestone, it's amazing. We've come a long way as a people, no doubt. But symbolism alone will not balance the imbalances or right the wrongs in this society. There are a lot of questions that will require a lot of rethinking of past assumptions, of those things we thought we knew, but didn't really. I found a couple of readings that have helped me, if not find answers to the many questions, they've at least helped me deepen some questions. This first comes from Annette Gordon Reed. Annette Gordon Reed in her book On Juneteenth. Ms. Gordon Reed is currently professor of American legal history at Harvard Law School. She grew up in Conroe, Texas, a northern suburb of Houston, and so, though she is black and I am white, her elementary education, her memories of that elementary education are not really so different from my own. She writes, when I was growing up, we took Texas history twice, in the 4th and the 7th grades. I cannot say with certainty that slavery was never mentioned. Of course, I didn't need school to tell me that blacks had been enslaved in Texas. I heard references to slavery from my parents and my grandparents. And a common retort when another kid, often a sibling, insisted that you do something for them that you didn't want to do was, slavery time is over. And we celebrated Juneteenth, which marked the end of the institution of slavery. But as slavery was mentioned in the early days of my education, it didn't figure prominently enough in our lessons to give us a clear and complete picture of the role the institution played in the state's early development, in its days as a republic, in its entry into the Union, in its role in the Civil War, and in the war's aftermath. Instead, as with the claim, the American Civil War was not about slavery, it was about states' rights. The move when talking about Texas rebellion against Mexico was to take similar refuge in concerns about overreaching federal authorities. Anglo-Texans chafed at the centralizing tendency of the Mexican government and longed to be free. And one could ask about the Civil War's states' rights argument. States' rights to do what? I don't recall my teachers giving a complete explanation for why Anglo-Texans felt so threatened by the Mexican government. End quote. I don't recall a decent explanation of that either. It's like the myth of the heroic Anglo, the spurious focus on states' rights, and the notion of American exceptionalism get woven into a blindfold to keep us from clearly seeing the white supremacy underlying our society. And a second reading. In 1852, speaking to the Ladies' Anti-Slavery Society in Rochester, New York, the abolitionist Frederick Douglass delivered one of the great speeches in American history. It's now known as "What to the Slave is Your July 4th?" From the lectern, he wondered if the nice ladies had mocked him by asking him to speak about American Independence Day, saying this, and I retain his language: "I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn." As if that was news to them in 1852. Douglass ended his remarks that day with this sentiment, and I will try to do so as well. "Allow me to say, in conclusion," he said, "notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I, therefore, leave off where I began, with hope. Juneteenth, a federal holiday, finally. There's some hope that would thrill Frederick Douglass to no end. But the disparities and the inequalities between and among us remain in the workplace, in the court system, in the polling place. There is still great work to do. So may it be. Our hymn is number 163 for the Earth Forever Turning. We'll sing all 4 verses. Jesus birth. Green hills of earth. Our benediction comes from Uvavnuk, an Inuit shaman. The great sea has set me in motion, has set me adrift, moving me like a weed in a river. The sky and the strong wind have moved the spirit inside me till I am carried away, trembling with joy. Go in peace, walk softly on your paths, and may the light of love shine on you all your days.